Ramon Montez Jr. wants to know, Randy, what was the Masters like? Well, Ramon, it was kind of like, gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight, gonna grab some afternoon delight. My motto's always been, when it's right, while waiting to the middle of a cold dark night. When everything is clear in the light of day. And you know the night is gonna be here anyway. Just thinking of it's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Rubbing sticks and stones together, making sparks ignite. And the thought of loving you is getting so exciting. Sky rockets in flight. Boo! Afternoon delight. Boo! Afternoon delight. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Hi, this is Randy from Friday's Golf, and welcome. This is the Masters recap video of my trip to the 2017 Masters. I'll try to keep it brief. I will do the best I can, but I'll probably end up rambling. It was an amazing experience. I don't want to spoil anything. I do want to take it step by step and take you through the day by day so you guys know exactly what went on throughout the duration of this trip. First and foremost, I want to thank Ping. I want to thank John K. Solheim, Pat Loftus, and Gene Graham. You guys were the most amazing hosts that I could ever have dreamed of. So on Thursday morning, I drove to Fort Wayne International Airport, and I was to fly out at, I believe, 11 o'clock. And I get there, right when I get through security check, I get a ding on my phone, 4-hour flight delay. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I go to the lady at the desk, very nice lady, and I ask her, is there any way I can get on an earlier flight? There wasn't a flight leaving that was delayed from earlier in the morning, and she's like, it's all packed, so I can't get you on that flight. I was like, can you put me on standby? She's like, not worth it. I'm like, please. So she puts me on standby. As she's typing my name into the system, she's like, you're not going to believe this. Somebody hasn't checked in for this flight, and it's leaving like in 5 minutes. And I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, it means that's your ticket. As I get on the plane, they're like getting ready to close all the doors. I put my bags away, I sit down, and right at that moment, another gentleman comes to the door, and he looks at me, and he looks at the flight attendant, and he looks very confused, and he's like, that man's in my seat. And I'm like, she's like, comes back, asks for my ticket, I show it to her, I'm like, is there a problem? She's like, not for you. And she goes up, and she's like, you didn't check in for your flight, so your ticket was forfeited, and they escorted him off the plane. He was mad. I was happy. So I land in Atlanta, I meet with Gene, and Gene and I drive from Atlanta to Augusta, which is quite a jaunt. I didn't realize it's like a 2.5-hour drive. So we take the trip from Atlanta to Augusta. When we arrive in Augusta, it's about 6:30, somewhere around there. We're just in time for our dinner plans, even though we're running a little bit behind. But we go to the house, we throw our bags inside, and we go to a place called T-Bones. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it. I had never heard of it before, but apparently it's like the steakhouse in Augusta, and I guess a lot of the caddies hang out there. And then we go back to the house, and I watch some highlights and fall asleep, because early the next morning we are heading to Berckman's place.
So is it a different parking spot when you go to Berckmans as opposed to just general admission?
Yeah.
It is?
Yep.
Yeah, so you're kind of to the back side of the course there.
Yeah.
I guess it's right by Amen Corner, kind of, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is what it feels like when you go to like the amusement park and you get like the line cut ticket where you can just bypass the line and everybody stares at you and hates you.
When we show up to the course, we actually park, and I think it's called like the South parking lot or whatever it is. It's just off of the 5th green in that direction there. So we park, and then we walk in, and as you're walking in, there's like 2 lines, one for general admission, one for Burkman's place. And so my very first experience of going into the Masters was going to Berckmans. And here's my pass right here. That's my Friday pass. Can you see that? So we walk into the front gates of Berckmans. It's like you get the sense of like walking into a museum and like a brand new shopping mall. And it's like everything is like marble, and it's just way over the top in the most over the top way that you can imagine. I'm just like trying to see everything, because there's pictures and there's kind of like artifacts laying everywhere, and I'm like awed by all of it, and everyone's just walking by it like it's nothing. They're like, oh, that's Dwight D. Eisenhower's golf bag. We see that all the time. So I'm kind of checking out Berckmans. I'm looking around, and it's just like high-end shops, and like I think there's like 3 restaurants in there, and everything is all inclusive. One of my favorite places inside Berckmans was an area where they had a bunch of memorabilia from like Dwight D. Eisenhower, Bobby Jones, Cliff Roberts, where it kind of tells you the backstory of the Masters, how it came to be, and just like the history of it. And speaking of the history, they had a cross section of the Eisenhower tree, which is massive, in a glass display. And on the rings, they actually labeled the rings like significant events that happened during that time frame. So they had like, like Arnold Palmer wins his first Masters, and there's like a little arrow pointing to that ring, and it happened that year. And I thought that was really cool to like preserve history in the rings of the Eisenhower tree. You get outside of Berckmans and you walk down, and there's just like this wraparound porch, and it's amazing. And this is the first time you get to see like putting greens. And they have a couple sets of putting greens. Over to your right, they have like a little outside restaurant. And then you have this humongous putting green where you have like a putt-putt course built around it, where you have like 8 holes, I think, 2 courses, 4 on each. And you actually can go over there, pick any putter you want. And I mean any brand, model putter you want. They hand you a ball, and they have a caddy on each tee station, and they tell you where to putt and aim, and it is a crazy experience. And the cool thing about it is that these greens are cut, and they are at the same speeds, tournament speeds, as the greens out on the course. So they cut the greens every single day, they roll them, they treat them just exactly like they do the greens out on the course. So you're putting on Masters greens. I now understand why it's so crucial to keep the ball below the hole, because these things are lightning fast. I mean, very fast. But it's not just that they're fast, it's the fact that the slopes on these greens are almost comical. Another cool feature, and this is even more cool than that green, are 3 replica greens that they have on the other side. And these are the greens from 16, 14, and 7. And they have, I think they're 25% smaller, but they have the same slopes, they have the same undulations, and they are built exactly to the same specs as those greens are. They're just shrunk down a little bit. And it was just such a cool experience to putt around on those greens. And I really felt like that was way more worth the Burkman pass than the actual going inside Berckman's place, like the building. Like, yeah, it was a fancy restaurant, and they treat you like you're a king, and that's cool. But as a golf fan, as a fan of the Masters, that was more surreal than anything. We walk from Berckman's place down where you can take one of two exits. You can go towards 5 green, or you can walk down towards 16 and 15. And of course, they're like, where do you want to go? And I'm like, I want to go to 15, 16. So the very first hole I see, I walk down, I'm kind of behind the grandstands, we take a left, and I walk out, and there is 16 green. I don't, like, my brain skips, and it's just like, it was the strangest feeling that I've ever had in my entire life, because I felt like I'd been here 100 times before, but it wasn't until, like, it kind of sunk in. It's just like, I can't believe I'm standing here right now, because I know this hole. I've seen shots played on this hole. I know the way the green slopes. I know how long it is. I know what clubs guys hit into it. And here I am standing on it. So it's just like this geeked out moment where you have to take a minute and kind of just let it all settle. So after my mental meltdown, the guys are, they're trying to get a feel for what I want to do that day. And of course they're like, you want to go up and watch the guys tee off. And I'm like, not really. I don't really have any interest today of watching guys play, at least right now. What I want to do is I want to see every square inch of this golf course. We actually walked backwards. We walked away from the clubhouse, and we walked down towards Amen Corner. And what we did is we walked behind 15 green and 16 tee station there, and we went over to 13. And we started at 13, and we just walked our way backwards down Amen Corner, and there was nobody there. we were so early in the morning. Everyone was trying to find seats on the front nine or the gathering around the clubhouse to watch everybody tee off. And I walked all of Amen Corner with no one on the green, no one on the tees, no one obstructing my views. And if you ever get a chance to go down to the Masters and you're there on Thursday, Friday, early in the morning, do that, because it was the coolest thing. I mean, it's giving me goosebumps just saying it right now. You're walking down those holes, and it's just like there's no noise. You're just there. So I'm like, let's go out and see more of the front nine. So we just devour the front nine. We walk up and down like every single hole, because for a lot of us, I feel like that grew up watching it on television. It hasn't been till really the last like 5 or so years that you got to see more and more of the front nine. And there was a couple holes I wasn't quite sure how they laid on the land, so I was like, I want to walk it. So we walked 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we walked all the way through it, and 5 was one of those holes that I just had forgot. You know, I couldn't mentally picture it. So I'm glad that we went out and walked it, because you know, you have 1 up the hill, bunker on the right. You have 2, the long par 5 that, you know, dog legs down the hill. Everyone knows that hole. 3 is that short par 4, and then 4 is that long par 3 that kind of goes up the hill. And then 5 just kind of disappeared on me, because 6 we know is the par 3 that goes down the hill. But we walked up 5, and it was like, I can't picture the way this hole looks on television, and I don't really remember seeing it that often. But it was cool to kind of put all the pieces of the jigsaw together. And that was one of the coolest things, because I'll tell you right now, the one thing that everyone talks about when you go to Augusta National is the fact that television doesn't do the slopes on the course justice. 100% correct. I'm not going to bore you with that. 10 is insane. It's like a mountain. I didn't realize how close the tee boxes are to the greens on every single hole. It's like you're not, I mean, I think the longest walk from green to tee box is from like 9 green to 10 tee station, because everything else is almost right on top of everything. Obviously, they've lengthened the course over the years, so you have like the tee box back on 11 that's been pushed back there. But everything else it's like right there. So these guys have to be conscious of when they're hitting putts or when they're hitting drives that someone's not getting ready to hit another shot, and fans are going to go crazy right in the middle of their backswing, which I'm surprised doesn't happen more often, but apparently they do a very good job of like being aware of their surroundings when they're playing and being very respectful of other players. The second thing that absolutely blew my mind, because I was there on Friday and there was like 25, 30 mile an hour winds, was how much the wind changes on that course depending on where you're standing. And what I mean by that is that there's 25, 30 mile an hour winds. So you see the trees like just going crazy up top, but there are times where you're on that course and you're standing there and you feel nothing. And then you walk around like a corner or you walk around a group of trees and it's like gale force winds in your face. So I can't imagine playing there in those kind of conditions where it's not, you know, semi-calm, because you're hitting into these treacherous greens where you have these super small landing areas. We get kind of tired from walking because we're there for 12 hours. So there towards the end of the day, we sat on 13, on the grandstands on 13's green. That was very cool, just sitting with Gene and watching players hit approach shots into that green. I actually got to see Phil Mickelson hit his approach from like 70 yards, and he had Bones 10 the flag, which I'm just like, what is going on here? And then he almost makes it, and it was just like everybody went crazy, and it was such a cool thing to witness, because that's so Phil.
So that wraps up the first day at the Masters. It was an amazing experience. I definitely want to sit down and kind of download everything I'm feeling right now, but it's still kind of surreal. It was amazing. Berckmans was amazing. The whole thing, it felt like an amusement park. And Augusta National is exactly that. It's an adult amusement park, and every single hole are the roller coasters. And it's just, it does not disappoint, and it was just truly a magnificent experience.
So Saturday, we wake up, we head down to the course. We don't have Burkman passes, we just have regular grounds passes. And to be honest with you, I don't think that Berckmans is that big of a make or break for the Masters as far as your experience goes. It's the cherry that sits on top of the sundae, but the Masters is the sundae. We just got regular grounds passes today. We're
pretty bummed about that. Just regular Masters tickets.
Yeah. So the very first thing I did is I stopped by a little shop. I bought a pair of sunglasses, which are a necessity because I swear that grass is so bright and vivid that it like snow blinds you, like snow does. So I got some glasses, and I also bought these right here. This is a pair of Bushnell binoculars, which saved the day because, as I stated before, you can find some very cool vantage points out on that golf course, but you know, you're a little bit farther away from the action because if you want to get right up on the ropes, you have to be there for like an hour or two waiting, and because it tends to fill up very quickly. But you go up on a hill, you stare down, and you can see so much. One of my favorite spots was on 7 because you could see the approach shots into 7 green. You could see the tee shots on 3, the approach shots on 2, and the tee shots on 8. So on Saturday, Gene and I had a different game plan altogether. We watched a couple shots from those spots I just said, but we wanted to sit down and really experience, like, you know, Masters and like the social aspect of it. So we sat down on 16's grandstands, which is an awesome spot because if you get far enough over, you can actually see the approaches from 15, and you can watch, you know, everyone playing on 16, and then you can actually see over on number 6 there. You can see him teeing off on number 17. Once again, binoculars, you can see quite a bit. But we sat on 16 the entire day. We saw every single person hit a golf shot that day, and that was pretty neat. And it's a very special place because you have a huge leaderboard. And the cool thing is you don't have any technology there, no cell phones. So the leaderboards become like televisions, and it's the craziest experience because it's like a flashback into time, and everyone's watching these leaderboards, and as they change, you know, names and numbers, people cheer at the leaderboards like as loud as they cheer for people making putts. So it's like you'll hear like, "Ah!" like up on 18, and there's no one playing 18, and the reason they're cheering is because they changed the leaderboard up there, and it's cool because everyone focuses in on those, and it's like being back in the good old days. Then we went up to 18, and I got to watch the leaders finish out there on 18, and that was a cool experience to stand around that green. It's like a natural amphitheater. There's no grandstands, but everything's kind of bowled up, and you can really get some good vantage points if you get there soon enough before the tournament ends. So we watched that till the last player putted out, and then we went back home again. We wake up Sunday. I have Burkman pass again. I don't know where I put it. Today, I'm walking around the course primarily with John K. But we walk up to the clubhouse, and we're standing there right between the clubhouse and number 1 tee. And once again, it's kind of a natural amphitheater, and you can get a good vantage point if you get up high enough. We watched everybody tee off all the way up till, you know, Sergio and Rose. And as soon as they teed off, we darted over to 7 once again to watch from that high vantage point, like I said. And we watched for about an hour and a half there as Sergio and Rose get to number 7 there, and they tee off on number 8, and we watch them tee off. We part ways there with John K, and Gene and I are like, you know, what should we do now? Like, you know, I want to be a part of this action that's going on. So we get the brilliant idea of following them. And I don't know if you have any experience with following golfers. It's hard to do. You have to have a game plan. So our game plan is to be in the fairways when they hit their tee shots, be at the greens when they hit their approaches, and leave the greens to go to the middle of the fairway of the next hole before they were done putting out. This worked perfectly. We saw Justin Rose and we saw Sergio Garcia hit every single shot on the back nine. We actually wrapped around by 16 green. This was the coolest moment of the whole tournament. I'm over there by 16 green, and Sergio's hitting his shot from the top of the hill on 15. I got my binoculars out. I'm like right there. I can see right up the chute. He hits it. I follow it down. It hits the green. People go crazy. We watch him make the putt, and then we watch his approach on 16 where he puts it to like 3.5 feet, but he missed it. We take off up 17, and then we're up behind 17 green when they hit their approach in there. And at that point, you know, we're going crazy because, you know, Rose bogeys, and now it's all tied. So now we have a decision to make. We can either go up 18, which I'm telling you right now, it is a madhouse. You can't even move around that green. We get over the crest of the hill, like we're going to walk down towards 18, and it's just like 200 yards out from the green, it's like 10 people deep. And it's like, that's not going to happen. So I get the brilliant idea at that point to leave 17 green, 18 tee station, and go to 10 green. And we walk over there, and we are right up against the ropes. I am 20 feet off the green. And Gene's like, what are you thinking? I'm like, dude, they just tied it up. If they tie this first hole, or if they tie 18, they're going to go back and play that hole again. And history shows that most of the time, the playoffs won on the 10th green. They go up 18, they tie, and it's like they hit the floodgates. People are like running down. You're not supposed to run, but they're running down 10, and they're just filling it. And then the next thing I know, I'm like 50 people deep around 10 green, and it's like buzzing, like people chattering and talking about what's happening. They're heading back to 18T. Luckily, the whole time there was a member there in a green jacket standing right in front of us, and he's sitting there and he has a broadcast in his ear and he's giving us a play-by-play. And it was so cool because he's just sitting there like, Sergio just hit his shot up the right side of the fairway. Justin Rose is here, but I have my binoculars and I could look right up the chute of 10 and you can see 18 green, and you just hear the roar and hear that place explode when Sergio makes the putt. It was one of the coolest things, I'll probably ever get to experience. I know this video is long, and I thank you guys for tuning in and listening. And once again, thank you to everybody, especially my wife and my family. That's all I have for you. Thank you. Oh yeah, I got Quentin a flag, so that way he wouldn't be mad at me. We'll see if it works. Thanks as always for watching, and until next time, I will see you later.